So what should a culture watch for? Now, going into the next 7 years into 2020. First thing, work-life balance. This is possibly a word which is most misused. And I've also realized it's the least understood. All of us talk of work-life balance as if in 24 hours we can compartmentalize 12 hours work, 12 hours life. It doesn't work like that. Work-life balance as a concept started in the 1920s. And it started because women started coming into the workforce. The concept of work-life balance was, if there's a woman who's coming to work, she has to go home, she has to cook, in some cases take care of the family, some cases go and shop, etc. That was the concept of work-life balance. And that's when the whole explosion in consumer electronics, the biggest innovation which altered work-life balance in America and the Western world was the dishwasher. Biggest thing. Then the refrigerator. Then the microwave oven. That's how work-life balance as a concept came in, essentially for women. Today, if you look at the generation, they're not worried about work-life balance. They want work hard, play harder. They want to work hard, party hard. And that balance is a difficult one to get. So work-life balance will be a perennial challenge. My submission to you, no company can wave a magic wand and give work-life balance. Each individual has to decide for himself or herself what is important to him or her. My submission to you when you think of work-life balance, there are a few things you should never let drop. You should never let your family drop. You should never let your health drop. Anything else can drop. Your career can drop. Your salary can drop. Anything else can drop. You can always bounce back from that. But if you let your family drop, you let your health drop, there is no career after that. So in work-life balance, my advice would be, think of those two and protect that. If you protect that, you're fine. The rest will follow. Next, language. India is particularly bad at this. There are a few countries who are bad at this, and I think India is bad. The Indian corporate world, in many cases, and specifically in the area of sales, and specifically in the area of all male teams, language is bad. In a future workplace, you cannot afford to have wrong language. You cannot afford to throw in all the slang and all the bad words which are being bandied about in meetings today. Okay? Your stakeholders and the diverse nature of your workforce will force you to behave better on language. Language is also a huge threat in the Indian workplace. Language is used as a threat. Okay? You have to be far more conciliatory in your language, far more welcoming in the way you talk to people. Okay, so language will undergo a fundamental change. It's already undergoing a change. It will undergo a fundamental change this decade. Diversity, very important. Most people define diversity very narrowly as the ratio of men to women. That's not diversity to me. I mentioned the 3 generations. That's diversity. Social background is diversity. Educational background is diversity. Okay? Diversity is actually about true thought diversity as opposed to gender diversity. Okay, so think of diversity in the larger context of how many different types of thought processes are coming to this meeting room or the company. Inclusion is always going to be a challenge in a hierarchy society like India with high power distance. Somehow we feel that if we are in power, we have to show power by showing distance. In fact, if anything, the opposite is true. Go back to inclusiveness and diversity. You have to be an inclusive leader as opposed to be a hierarchical leader. So inclusiveness will be a big challenge this decade, and I don't think companies are fully ready or prepared for it. The other thing which is happening in most companies is the matrix. Okay? So we have a matrix organization in many companies today, whether it's a multinational company or the Indian organization. For good reasons, there is a matrix. A matrix works when you collaborate. A matrix works when you agree on what is common to your winning between both departments. A matrix is not a license to start a non-cooperation movement. In many companies, a matrix is used to start a non-cooperation movement, to stall. Marketing has said this, I as sales will stall it. Finance has said this, I as supply chain will stall it. A matrix works on very clear principles of what is a common win. So if you're in a matrix company, my submission to you, every time you see a conflict, make people sit down and say, what's the common list that both of you agree on? Can we deliver that first? Let's come to the disagreements later on. All the time and energy in a company is today spent on disagreements. It's not spent on agreements. Okay, a matrix must focus you on agreements. Okay, keep this in mind. This is my own experience. Collaboration and cooperation. Okay, most people want to collaborate. Most people do not cooperate. Because again, intellectually collaboration is easy. Yeah, I signed your paper, I replied to you on email. Cooperation goes beyond that. Collaboration is, and the equivalent is, you have a 4x100 relay race. You're passing the baton. That's basic collaboration. You have to pass the baton, right? How slow or fast is a different matter. How perfectly you do it is cooperation. If you see any of this thing, the guy is holding his head back, they hit the baton right in his hand and he holds it. Okay? So what you will see at the workplace has to be a combination of collaboration and cooperation. Most organizations have some part of collaboration and no part of cooperation. And as leaders, we need to bring both to the table. Okay, this is what will be a future world. The next one, we're going to get lots of feedback. Feedback has to be the diet of improvement. If you seek more and more feedback, you'll improve more and more as a leader. My experience with feedback, I always ask for feedback every single day. Of every single meeting I attend, every single session I do, I always do that. My sense of feedback, 2/3 of the feedback is roughly in the zone of being right. 1/3 of the feedback is absolutely rubbish. You have to know who is the guy who's giving you the feedback which is right and who's the guy who's giving the feedback which is wrong. You'll come to that judgment over time. It's not easy. Ask lots and lots and lots of feedback. That's the only way you'll develop your true north. If you don't ask for feedback, you will think you're the world's best and you'll be in for a big shock. Because what you think and what others are thinking, there'll be a valley between you and them. Okay, feedback is a great way to address especially the emotions of how you feel. Because you'll suddenly notice, you say a simple thing like, I don't think our capability in this meeting, in this company is at this level in the area of, let's take, digital. After the meeting, when you ask feedback for the people, some will say, I was flummoxed by your comment on digital competency. Somebody will say, you're absolutely right. Somebody will say, you're absolutely wrong. What they're reacting is actually their emotions about the topic and nothing to do with the rational part. So it will help you judge the emotional maturity and nature of your company and your teams. Seek more and more feedback. Over a period of time, I've noticed, the more feedback you ask, the narrower the bands become and the closer the truth is. That's what happens. Because then, after a month or two, people say, this guy is serious about feedback, so let me start giving him the right thing. Okay? They will not start playing to your position as much as they'll start playing to the issue. So feedback, ask for it, tons of it. It's the best way for you to stay humble. It's the best way for you to stay learned. Okay? It's very, very cheap, easily available. So in summary, there are many things which will unite a company. Leadership for one, winning for the other, learning by all means. Equally, there are many things which will divide a company. Losing for one, poor culture for one, poor leadership for another. Okay? Winning cultures and a united company go hand in hand. Okay? Insecure leadership, losing, etc. contributes to a divided company. And there are many things to watch out for as you build your company and your culture. Okay? Like work-life balance. Okay? Watch for each of these things. Like feedback. Okay? Like how you run meetings. Every single thing. There are many things which contribute to our culture in tomorrow's world. Diversity, inclusiveness, etc. And it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. Trust me, culture, you have to work on it every day in order for it to succeed. It's not an easy thing. It is not as simple as putting out a sheet of paper saying this is what we believe in. A culture has to be role modeled by leaders every day through their behaviors. That's the difficult part of culture. The easy part of culture is to put it down on a sheet of paper. The difficult part is role modeling the behavior on a daily basis. Till you get the top 10% of your managers to do that on a daily basis, you will not have what I call an effective culture. You might have a culture in pockets, but overall as a company, you won't have an effective culture.